Well, thank you, Azwi. The sexual violence in schools in South Africa Kwanele baseline study found that learners at Khayelitsha schools experience high levels of sexual violence, including intimate partner violence or IPV in heterosexual dating relationships. It also showed that the majority view that emerged during the discussions with learners of all age groups was that violence against female partners was normal. It was expected at times and part of an intimate heterosexual relationship. Now, the study included both primary and high school learners. And with us now to unpack some of these findings, we have Fina Kgodisang, who is the Executive of Programs at the Soul City Institute, and Andile Khayelitsha, who is founder of Open Disclosure Foundation. Ladies, welcome. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you.
So I think let's start with this very disturbing finding that both high school and primary school learners in heterosexual relationships think that it is normal to be abused by a partner. Andile, let's start with you. What does that say about us as a society?
It's sadness. It just says that these kids are repeating what they're seeing at home. What happens to them or what they see their parents, their mothers, go through. And so there's some kind of normalcy also because we're not a country that is very big on punitive measures. So there aren't many people that you can point at and say, okay, this one used to abuse my mom and this is what happened to them. And I just think that the fact that this violence has been so ingrained in our young populace,
Which is interesting that you say that, because our question, incidentally, today, our question of the day, speaks about harsher sentences for perpetrators of violence, gender-based violence. And many people say yes, but there are those who feel that it won't make a difference. So perhaps to draw you in on our question of the day, what do you make of that?
I think we need a combination of measures, of tools. I think it needs to be known that violence or abuse, sexual violence is not something that you can get away with. We do have, some of the best laws, but unfortunately there's also that problem where there's no will to even, at some years ago we would ask the judiciary, why are you not even meeting out the minimum sentence? So at this point, for me, I feel like if there's a cost to you personally that does this sexual violence. We have a sexual offences register, which for me is one of the tools, but it's hidden away somewhere. We don't know where that is. So I definitely think that a basket of measures. So it's not just about you, if you've raped, getting 8 years in prison. There must be something else. In fact, it should be harder for you to restart your life and get back into society, as a perpetrator, than what we see right now, is that the victim is the one that has to hide, change places, go live somewhere else. Their whole life, gets put into the shambles. When you as a perpetrator, chances are you're never going to get caught, a docket's going to get missing. If you do get caught, you're not even going to get the punishment that you deserve.
And these are some of the unfortunate realities that we have to contend with. Fina, from your side, this study was conducted in Khayelitsha, the baseline study. Why Khayelitsha?
So when there was a study that was done prior, when Comic Relief wanted to do some work in South Africa, and they commissioned, a study. And I think Khayelitsha was one of those areas that showed possible high rates of sexual violence. And that is why we're doing that study and the implementation of the program in Khayelitsha.
And I see there was, of course, a focus on intimate partner violence between children of school-going age. What about those who may find themselves in abusive relationships with older people? Did that show up in your study at all?
So the children that are in school are usually dating. The high school ones would be dating those that are in university, those that are working, sometimes also dating their peers. So there's that cross-sectionality between the different ages, and that we have seen in the study as well.
Which is very interesting because Corruption Watch, Leanne, had a conversation earlier this week, and they were talking about seeing an increase in the number of charges or allegations made, at least to them, in sextortion. This was in the school sector, where there was, teachers soliciting sexual favors from learners for higher marks, Andile.
Sure. What's happening in our country? I don't understand. First of all, it's an unequal relationship. You will always, as the child, we saw in Rekha Park, you'll always be on the receiving end. You'll always be the one having to do things that you don't want to do, because this person who is your senior but also, is in a powerful position, is using that position for his means. So the reports, they say Corruption Watch saw them, and then what's happened? Have we removed those teachers in those schools?
And
where's the
this is it.
principle?
Where's the follow-through? Because I think very often this is where all of the good work almost comes to naught, because it's one thing having the statistics, doing the studies, but if there's no follow-through, what's the point, is the question that very often follows. But Fina, one of the shocking and most worrying revelations in the study was, of course, also that 41% of primary school learners actually experienced sexual violence in at least 12 months preceding this study.
Wow.
And I think it's a reflection of what our society is. In society, we've normalized rape, we've normalized women abuse, child abuse. So you wouldn't be surprised if at an age of 10, a young person is experiencing violence. And I think it's even shocking and even worrying, because, as you were indicating, that violence is perpetrated by the teachers, someone who's supposed to be protecting this learner who's in school. They are actually the ones that are perpetrating some of this violence.
I know, I could see Andile's response to that. So while she digests that, I'm going to allow you to do the same for a few minutes as we take a short break. And when we come back, we'll continue this very uncomfortable discussion.